Going to call to order this meeting of the City of Huntingburg Common Council. Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father God, thank you for those that are here to serve the city today, our employees, our citizens that come here and voice their opinions, but also our council and other staff that are here to make decisions today. We ask that you be with us, that you guide, direct us in the decisions we make, that we are looking for the care of others, and that we're considering others in these decisions for these things. We ask in your son's name. Amen.
Amen.
First thing, ask for a approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
We have first and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of claims.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims.
I'll second.
Got a first and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next, we're going to kind of go a little bit out of order here. We have a Buzz Cron here. You guys pronounce your name right, but all right, Cron. Be able to discuss the gas rate presentation that previously was discussed with the Utility Rate Advisory Board. You were all here for that vote and presentation of the resolution from them to consider a gas rate hike. Today is just really a presentation to consider the introduction of the ordinance and set dates for those hearings that have to come after that. But kind of let Buzz come up and introduce himself and kind of talk about the history of how we got to this point today.
Thank you, Mayor. Here for the record, Buzz Crone with O.W. Crone and Associates. And it's good to see everyone again. We're here to talk about the gas utility. And we've been looking back over the years, and it seems like the largest rate change we had was back in 1998. We did have some peak gas costs in 2007, 2008, when we were paying as much as $13 an MCF from our supplier. We tracked that through with the monthly gas cost adjustment tracker. And Tom Dipple does a great job getting that as close as you can to dollar for dollar recovery. Last year, and with the gas rates, and we like to use a May 31st cutoff because that's sort of after the heating season is behind us, and it's sort of an off-peak cutoff where hopefully the receivables from catch up to the payables as far as you're having to pay out those gas costs before you actually collect the dollars for it. And then that sort of steamrolls. It's probably at one of our worst points right now this time of year. But using a May cutoff, looking back the last 3 years, we've lost about $800,000 over the last 3 years in cash on hand as of that May cutoff. And recently, this council approved up to $1 million temporary loan from the electric utility to tide us through the rest of the winter months so that we can pay all the bills on time. And what we want to do is, over the next couple of years, sort of replenish that working capital that we've lost the last 3 years, and not have to borrow money in the winter months to make our gas bill payments anymore. But we're fortunate to have that electric utility there to be able to help tide us through this time. But here we go. Yeah, back in December of 2013, we had a rate revision. It was primarily to reflect the lower cost of buying gas. In 27 and 28, or I'm sorry, 2007, 2008, our gas utility revenues were about $5 million per year. It was actually 5.1 million in 2008. Last year was 3.9 million. The proposed rates that we're proposing tonight will still be less than what the rates were back in 2008, if there's any good to be taken with the bad. But again, since 2008, our revenue stream's gone down about 1.2 million. It's really just been in recent years that our cash flows have been declining. In the last 3 years, our cash working capital reserves is down over $800,000, and I'm sure it's worse right now because we're in the fourth year of this progression, and again, this is the peak time of year where the outlay exceeds what's coming in, and hopefully that will catch up somewhat, if not completely, in May of this year. But we're likely to have to continue these revolving loans for a couple of years until the new rates have had a chance to take hold. And we're probably not going to see a whole lot of that in this heating season, because logistically it's probably going to be the March usage billed in April that will actually be able to implement the proposed rates. But again, we want to make sure we correct right the ship as quickly as we can. Our test year was May 31st, 2024, which again, that was not quite a year ago, but it was captures the last heating season. And we had on the income statement, we lost 335,000. And again, over the last 3 years, our net losses were about 835,000, and actual cash flow declines were a little over 800,000. Again, it's probably going to be another 350,000 or so this year, I would expect. So again, the Indiana code, we've got certain revenue requirements that we must fund in the rates. First of all, our cash operation and maintenance expenses, which includes purchasing gas from our wholesale suppliers, working capital and cash reserves. That's a big deficit right now. Debt service on bonds or other indebtedness and debt reserves. We're fortunate to have the electric utility to be able to loan us money very easily that we can pay back very easily, but it's probably going to be a revolving loan for the next couple of years. And then depreciation or an allowance for capital improvements. That's another area that we've been spending about what our depreciation has been generated. Our depreciation is about 125,000 a year, and there's been years where we've spent more than that. I just flip through here. Yeah, last year we spent about 139,000 on page 4 of that report. But even in the prior years, we didn't spend that full depreciation amount on actual capital outlays, but we still lost, had deficit cash flows. And the year ending May 31st, 2022, we had about $174,000 drop in cash. In 2023, that same cutoff of May 31st was about 322,000, and last year was about 310,000. So over 800,000 of our working capital has eroded over the last 3 years. At the beginning of the 22 test year, which was actually June 1st of 21, we had about 2.6 million. At the end of 2024, we had just under 1.8 million. And again, when we get into the peak heating season, we have to pay out those gas costs before we maybe collect all the receivables from it. So that puts us in the pinch we're in right now, where we need the temporary loan from the electric utility. In our current test year, again, that's May 31st of '04, our cash operation and maintenance expenses, including purchase gas costs, was about $4 million. And we've made some adjustments. Some of it's inflationary adjustments, because we really haven't had an inflation adjustment for about 12, 13 years. And we're looking out the next 2 to 3 years. So it's about a 15-year adjustment for catching up with inflation. And then we're also synchronizing our MCF purchases with our actual sales. So that's another adjustment that we've made to our operating and maintenance costs. So we're looking at about 4.4 million as our target for cash operating expenses. Then we have the residual equity transfers and payment in lieu of taxes that we pay to the general fund every year from all the utilities. Now, the sewage works is a little different animal because it's a public works as opposed to a public utility. But on the 3 public utilities, we make these transfers every year. And the general fund is really dependent on getting those from all 3 utilities. We also put in our depreciation allowance, and then we just put in a $50,000 allowance to be able to whittle down having to borrow from the electric utility. It's sort of a working capital issue, but over time we want to build that working capital back up so that we don't have to borrow those funds in the future. But it's probably going to take 2 or 3 years until we get over that hump. So we're targeting for operating revenues of about 4.8 million, and our current revenues are about 3.9 million. And again, I just want to highlight the 4.8 million is still about 300,000 less than the revenues we were generating back in 2008. The cost per MCFs have come down from our supplier, but inflation and so forth is an issue that we need to catch up with on our operating expenses and working capital primarily. So again, our revenues we're targeting for the $4.8 million. The impact on the different customer classes, this is where we really worked hard to kind of get these to come out relatively evenly. At first, we wanted to push more of the increase into the base customer charge. That's a more reliable source of revenue. Doesn't depend on the weather near as much. But what we found out then was residential was getting a disproportionate increase, and we didn't want that to be the case. So we came up with a combination of about a $3 increase in the monthly base charge, which in the summertime when people aren't using gas, that's sort of the minimum bill. Now, people probably use some gas if they have a gas grill or what have you, but that $3 increase will be the most significant thing that they would see. They probably wouldn't even notice it. But again, we wanted all these other classes to pay the same contribution towards the proposed revenue increase. So we've come up with a combination of increases in the base and the commodity charge so that we could level that out. Now, this residential bill illustration is a peak month. 12 MCF is a winter usage month. We didn't want to base it on the minimum charge. We wanted to base it on the biggest bill the residential customers get. So in a peak month, there might be $19 or $20 in a peak month. In an off-peak month, it could be as low as $3 or $4 a month. And this is the rate schedule that's attached to the ordinance that I think Phil's going to present here in just a little bit. But again, on the base cost, we're looking at an increase of $3 for residential customers. For industrial customers, obviously, it's a lot more proportionally. But again, we wanted to make sure that we got these contributions towards the new rates to come out within 1 or 2% of each class. The increase in the volume charge is about $1.40 per MCF. That's the part that varies with the amount of usage. And again, that's pretty much the same for all of the customer classes, that $1.40 increase in the commodity charge. And then we do have we had a $5 a month surcharge that got tweaked a little bit in 2022 when we had to lower the rates by 1.2% to reflect the rescission of the Indiana state gross income tax. All the utilities had to do probably cost more than it saved, but it was 1.2% reduction in 22. So that's how we got to these oddball numbers, but we're looking at increasing the monthly surcharge for outside customers by $2.50 a month. And everybody pays that same rate regardless of the meter size or customer class. So that, in a nutshell, is what we've got in the proposed rate ordinance. We didn't change the base cost of gas. We left it where it was at $4 an MCF. Last year, you averaged about $4.77 per MCF. And we recovered almost that exact amount. I think it was like $4.65 was our, the GCA revenue was, the increase over the base was 77 cents because we had $4 in the base and we recovered about 65 cents per MCF, so it was very close. Tom does a very detailed job of trying to get those matched up as closely as possible and match them to the usage periods that we buy the gas from and we sell the gas from in those same usage periods. But there's still a lag in collecting receivables that is probably at its peak right now. So we're recommending these rate modifications. Again, it's real, while we've had some minor tweaks to the rates in 2013 and again in 2022 they were primarily reductions because in 2013 we reduced our base cost of gas from $7 to $4. And so really the last couple of rate changes have been reductions. We generated 3.9 million last year in our test year, and going back to the 2008 period of time where gas costs were at their peak, we were at 5.1 million. So even with the rate adjustment that's proposed, the rates are still going to be less than what they were back in 2008. So
Do you have an exhibit showing the non-recurring increases?
I didn't put it in, yeah, there is, it's in the
It's in the
report.
report, but it's not on, you don't have to.
I didn't put it on the slide, but the other change that we're proposing is increasing the connection fee to, it's been $500 for probably since 1998. And we wanted to get that up closer to what we charge for a water connection because there's a lot of similarities in costs of tapping the main and putting in the meter and so forth. So I think the water utilities is $1,200. We're proposing $1,000 for the connection fee for the gas utility.
It's on page 3 of the ordinance too.
And then Appendix B really doesn't, it's not changing. We just left it at the $4 per MCF. We left the tracking revenue we generated in our test year, which recovered that difference. There's some months you buy gas at, less than $3 an MCF, and then there's other months where you might be paying $7 or $8 an MCF, but on the average, you average about $4.77 last in our test year. So that, in a nutshell, is what we have to present, and I'd be glad to take questions. I think you've all received copies of the full rate study. We'd be glad to try to answer any questions you might have or comments you might have. This again is just an introduction tonight. There'll be a public hearing at some point next month. So there's still time to introduce it, and then if questions come up, you're always free to give me a call, or we'll address them at the public hearing. But, questions or comments?
I've got two different charts here, and I'm not sure I understand the difference. On page 19, it shows an increase for residential customers of 27.5%. And on page 22, shows 23.5%. Are they not factoring in the $3 monthly charge, or what's the difference?
Those are the paid, I'm guessing those are the.
Page 22 shows 23.5, and page,
Those were the original.
proposed change,
That doesn't,
So those two charts, one of those charts represents the average change in that monthly bill. So for a resident of 12 MCF usage, that's gonna be the peak month of usage. So that's comparing a monthly bill, while the other chart is only comparing revenues. So that would be the bit of discrepancy in those percentages. So those are not going to align perfectly because they're two different charts. One is for just looking at that peak monthly bill, while the other one's just gonna be the change in 12 months of revenues.
okay.
And I think it probably has to do with the base charge going up $3
On your lower months, the base charge will be a significantly higher
per
added percentage.
Right.
So is it fair to assume 27% is more accurate? I mean, over the course of a year? Is that gonna average out to the percentage of increase for the customer?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. What if inflation drops?
That'd be great. We can always, I think we've got some time that we need to build up our replenish our working capital. Um, You know, I hope inflation drops. I don't know that I've ever seen that happen, but if gas costs drop, that's an automatic flow through. The rest of our revenue requirements are pretty much, you know, personnel costs, the amount of money that we pay over to the city general fund.
I think I don't think your hard costs will change much. I mean, but I do think inflationary pressures will change this rate. And I also think that, gas prices could go in either direction at this point. Too soon to tell.
Well, the gas costs is probably the biggest variable, and that's something that flows through the tracker every month, based on what is paid for gas in any particular month. And that's, you know, that's the biggest part of the revenue requirement also. On that customer bill, we thought we should pick the peak month, because it shows the, sort of the, on the customer bill comparison, we picked a peak month to illustrate. But the,
Is this the average monthly bill? Where do you come up with 12 MCFs?
that's.
That your average?
That's the
That's
peak.
the, I guess the December usage, January. It's from one of those months.
I mean, it's an average overall customers on a peak month divided
Those are
out.
the specific averages for those rate classes, so residents came out at 12 MCF for, I just gotta check and see what month that was, but it was the peak
It was
month.
either-
So it's an average of everybody in that
It
class.
was either
Average
December or
usage.
January of,
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at.
January usage, February billings.
You did everybody's residential usage for the month of January divided by
The amount of
Divided-
usage divided by
the
the
number
amount
of-
of customers.
amount of residential customers.
Yes.
it came out.
And the average is 12 MCF.
For that peak month.
Okay.
Right.
So I understand.
Have the number of users, just the pure number of users climbed? I mean, is it going up, or we have fewer homes hooked up to gas and more to electric?
Yeah.
I'm gonna get more customers.
I think John is getting maybe 30 customers a year growth. But he's not sure that that's gonna continue after this one subdivision is fully built out. That'll happen this year probably.
It's 2 subdivisions that are filling out, so probably go down less. Unless you wanna go gas, so.
It's not opposed. I can't.
Wow.
So the reduced revenue is just because the price of gas has gone down? Is that what you're saying? Because our
That
number of
was,
users are going up, but the price of gas has caused our department's revenue to fall from 5 million to 3
that's
point.
primarily it. And then weather can have a influence on that too. You know, real cold weather, you know.
Is the rate tracker included in this chart?
It's in the.
For the
rate
MC,
ordinance.
for
We
this-
didn't change the base cost of gas. If you look at the rate ordinance on Appendix B, that has the same gas tracker calculation that we had back in 2013.
It's, the ordinance is
It's
actually
not
appendix.
including the gas
Appendix
tracking
A,
revenues aren't included in either chart, so it's purely, those two charts are purely on base revenues.
Okay. So the average bill here, will the rate tracker be zero? I don't understand how that could be. You're
Well,
saying,
77 cents. You know, the average gas cost for last year was $4.77. Our base cost was $4. So there was, I think the tracker generated about 65 cents per MCF.
that's all done in arrears?
Pardon me?
We do that behind,
Well,
It's always a month behind.
Yeah, you
That's
bill.
what I'm saying, it's done in arrears.
You bill a month in arrears, but the usage periods are pretty close. We try to read the meters about the same time that the cutoff for the wholesale purchases. So, I mean, there's probably gonna be a little bit of fluctuation there, but
Okay, so we know our costs because we're buying it before we're billing it. But then we're adjusting our rate tracker to reflect that
correct,
month after month to keep up.
correct.
As close as we can, as long as
Well,
it doesn't
I
keep going
got
up.
you.
That's when you get.
Stair stepping.
Yeah.
I got it.
We're not making a windfall on the rate tracker.
No, I just want to make sure that all things are laid out here in front of us, so we understand them. Because this is quite complicated, you know, when you lay all of this out here at one time. It's 24 pages or whatever. Okay.
So I guess my simple way of thinking this through is with the faith that the department is being run as efficiently as it can be. We're not bloated with too many employees or too big of salaries, and you trust that that's the case. There's really not an area that you can go in here and cut costs. I mean, we've got to buy the gas for a certain amount of money. There's a certain amount of cost involved with installing gas and maintaining the lines, and I mean, unless I'm missing something, the department can't continue to lose money indefinitely. And so
Your
an
maintenance
increase
cost in
in,
line's gonna be the same no matter what your usage is usually.
what was that?
I said your cost to maintain the lines and replace lines where necessary are gonna be about the same no matter what your usage is usually.
Right.
And I think that moving here from Indianapolis, our base rate is significantly lower. I think our base rate in Indy was $35 or $35 a month, so, I mean, what are the base rates? Have you looked at that in the area, surrounding areas as to
Yeah, I know that.
where we're comparable? Because I know that we just
Well, if you
did a
compare
water.
them to the investor-owned utilities, what you're saying is exactly correct. Jasper's is, you know, in the ballpark here, I think, maybe a little bit less than ours. But if you look at investor-owned utilities, they're probably $30 or $40 a month for a base charge. And when we put it at $15, that was our, you know, it was a significant increase for it made those percentage differences where residential was contributing a lot higher increase than the other classes. So we decided that we put the $3 increase on the base charge is still a step forward. And then the $1.40 is where we ended up on the commodity charge. An increase, yeah.
You know, the first proposal came through or looked at was a $15 charge on that base. We all hedged on that one. You know, that's just way too much for residents to be able to take on, and I tried to work the math to get it down as low as it could, and we got it down to that. That's where that 1040 came out, which is concerned. Yeah, the math comes out right at 15, but it doesn't come out right when you pay your bill in the middle of summer. And that's less than half of what some of the other consumer utilities are in the area.
I think it's unfortunate just because it stinks to have rate increases anywhere, and we've already hit residents with the wastewater, but I think everything's getting more expensive, and we don't really have a lot of options here. And really, when you say 27%, it looks like a huge number, but I think, and $20 is a lot of money for an average household, but if that's on your peak winter months,
That's on the peak, yeah.
the summer months, hopefully it would only be a few dollars a month. I mean, I really don't think we have another option. It's not like we have.
We'll keep losing money.
Right, and I'm glad that you explained this, because I was confused as to how we were losing money each year, because it seems like we buy the gas, we do an upcharge or whatever, but it's just that I think we've been really fortunate in our community to not have a rate increase for a very long time. And now it's kind of catching up to
You
us.
said 2008, is that correct?
Seems like it is.
The last increase?
2008, our revenues were 5.1 million, and then we reduced them, in 2013, we reduced the base cost from $7 to $4. And since that time, the only other change has been a modest reduction for the elimination of state gross income tax. So we've gone a long time without any.
Yeah, that's 17 years, right? So it seems logical to me, just from the numbers, that you would take all the fixed costs, so salaries, electric to run the buildings and, the trucks and the gas costs and the line maintenance and all of those things, divide that by the number of meters and know what those fixed costs would cost each person that's on the system. I mean, granted, there's industrial and commercial and residential, so how you divide that out is a major math calculation. But it feels like that cost ought to be paid by the base cost, right? The fixed cost the department has should be paid for by that fixed monthly cost.
Well, if you do that, the residentials are gonna bear the burden of it. The
Yeah.
residential customers are gonna bear the burden of the
It seems like
increase.
you'd have to have a weighted system, like based on usage. I mean, we couldn't just do it flat across the board, but it would need to be, but at least that would give you a start as to, I mean, is that kind of what you did in these calculations, to find the base rate, that the base rate covers our fixed costs, and then,
Well,
Also adds to our-
we started out sort of that way, but even at $15, that wouldn't cover all the overhead. Because out of this, well, let me go back.
so we have the base fee, and then we also have the adjuster, that's the 65 cents, and that's based on the usage, so it's a mix of those two that cover the fixed cost.
If you took the purchase gas costs out, you'd be looking at 2 million of overhead for the operating costs, and then another another 425,000. If we did all these other, the amount that we transfer to the general fund is the same every year. So you'd probably be looking at closer to 2.5, if you took 2.5 million divided by the number of meters.
I know we did that at one of our meetings, but it was,
Here we are, we send out 45,000 bills.
Yep.
So
$55 a month.
how much?
What?
55
The 2.5 million divided by the 45,000 customers.
custom bills, yeah,
Yeah, 55.
$55 a month.
But that doesn't account for the weighted,
Yeah, that's
Across the
without
classes,
waiting the
which
industrial
which
customers.
would require, more detail than, it's a calculation here than
So
the council
Pam,
meeting.
our rates are a combination of the flat monthly charge and a volume charge based on the amount of gas you use. But built into that volume charge is our cost of gas, assumed to be $4 per unit. If that cost goes up, then we add a tracker every month. If it goes down, we reduce the cost. But there's still a margin over and above our cost that's built into the volume rates. And that's what helps cover the fixed costs as well as the base cost, the base charge every month.
So is it fair to then say, again, I'm trying to simplify this as much as I can, that if I were a very small residential user, that other big residential users are in some ways subsidizing my cost to be in the system? That we're not charging enough in the base rate to cover my small usage. So in the months where there's a lot of usage, people who use a lot of gas are paying a little more than they should for the gas. And that profit, you might call it, I know it's not profit
Well,
in this
margin.
business, but margin, thank you, is helping to subsidize the small user, the small residential user. I mean, if I'm a small user, I would want to know that I should thank some people for helping me keep my bill down.
Yeah, I think you're being a little too simplistic because the customer that uses more gas is putting more strain, more demand on the system and creating more
Makes
costs.
sense.
And I think also it just depends, like in my house, our gas, all I have is a water heater and a stove during the summertime. So it's like, whenever we lived in Indy, it was awful because it was $35 a month, no matter what. And it's like, it showed that we used like a quarter of a, whatever, BBU or whatever it is.
No.
And so that was really, I wish that it would have been more based on, I would have rather paid more based on my usage than for the, I think there's a point when if your base rate gets too high that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But you guys are giving this some deep thought. I appreciate all those comments.
And it's a
We're
shame,
not-
man.
we're
They're
not-
all true.
The only thing we can do with this is introduce this, and it has to have, you have to have public hearings, you have to have input, all those things.
Yes.
So nothing's decided at this point, but,
You're talking about when we vote on this and if it passes, it'll be starting in May. And is it May? Is that right?
Probably April.
April, March usage, April,
how you drag it.
recovery,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
decide to pass it during the month of
Right, right.
February.
Okay. It's,
I did have one specific question, and then I am recent. On page 17, it shows a interest income reduction of like $69,000.
Yeah,
What's
we
that
don't
about?
have- We don't have that money to invest anymore, so we didn't want to,
It's gone?
well, right now we're paying interest
Okay.
to electric, so we didn't want to rely
Shame on
on,
them.
I mean,
It's a pretty good rate.
You know the lender, don't you?
Yeah, I know the lender and I know the rate. It's not bad. Okay, I got you. Just checking
no, that's
where
a
that
good question.
significant reduction came from. I assume you don't, just,
Yeah, we just didn't want to rely on having that much income from investments when we own the electric utility.
yeah,
We don't think, hopefully it's more than 10 grand, but that was just an estimate that we felt comfortable at that level, but not at the $60,000 or $70,000
Yeah.
level.
gotta throw a dart somewhere and, got it. Okay,
These shortfalls don't include this heating season.
What,
So the shortfalls don't include this heating season's
Right,
middle of.
I think we're probably looking at 300,000 or 400,000 more
17.
depletion.
See, I got mine's different from you guys.
Page 12.
how long do you think it'll take before we get back up where we should
It's
be?
actually page
I
12.
would like to.
2 years.
Page 17.
In a couple of ye- in
I
2 years,
17
maybe 3, depends on the weather.
know what you're using.
But
I think it is,
that was one of the thoughts in pushing all,
because we have added.
everything into the base charge. It would have been a more reliable source of income, and we get it 12 months of the year. But when we looked at the impact on residential versus the other classes is when we fell back to coming up with a combination. And Tom and Debbie and Brandon and I and Amy spent a couple work sessions on Teams meeting where we were trying various combinations to, get those contributions by class more equal. And we did increase the industrial base charges higher than we did the residential base charges.
Did
I'm gonna come back and, sorry, Tim.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna come back and ask another question, even though I said I wouldn't.
That's all right.
Only go one more.
There is a increase in meter reading labor. Don't we read our meters electronically now?
Yes.
Not all of them.
I mean, most of them.
70.
Or is that a bill, is that in the billing office changes?
So that customer accounts, yeah, that includes the billing department. Those are shared between all the utilities, I believe. That's meter reading and the customer account labor. And we factored in probably 3 years of increase at 3% a year.
I'm looking at the parentheses over here and all the codes. I got that. Okay.
Yeah, we factored that in for a 3-year look forward at 3% a year. So based on our, the test year, and we're already 1 year into that 3 years.
Did you have a page in here showing us how do we stand if we passes where we, with our neighbors or around the state area?
Well,
I mean, we're different situations.
I need to, we looked at Jasper, they've got a different customer base than we do, and you can, but I could come up with some
Not the apples to
industrial.
apples.
Pardon me?
It's not apples and apples, is it?
Yeah, comparisons are great, but every community's gotta make decisions based on their own unique facts and circumstances.
I mean, that's real.
We're probably gonna be a little higher than Jasper, but I predict that we're probably lower than, Citizens Gas or Vectren. I could come up, I'll come up with some,
I'm just curious.
I'll come up with some rate comparisons here for you. I'm looking at my gas bill at home, I know you're less than they are. Investor-owned utilities, they've gotta include income taxes and dividends and, they go in for one rate increase. By the time they finish getting through the IURC with one, they're ready to start the next one, within a relatively short period of time. I think they have to wait at least 15 months between filings. But I'll come up with some comparisons with some of the investor-owned utilities.
All right, thank you.
That's probably,
Do you have on your sheet what the average household usage is in the summertime?
I think it's probably,
Across the year it was 4 MCF. I don't have it, but I
For-
can figure it out.
for the
right
whole
now.
year, it was only 4. For the peak month, it was 12.
Okay.
So the lowest month would be less than 4, probably.
We have a Ohio Valley gas.
An MCF is 1,000 cubic feet.
Because I think that's the difference that a lot of people are gonna see too, is like if we increase the base rate by a significant amount,
That's
that's something
where,
that they're gonna, like their summertime bill, when they're used to that being less, it's gonna be significantly more.
it would have been, it would have been 100% if we'd have made it $15.
Yeah, for some people, because it would have been, their bill might be only be $15 a month.
The low month across probably 5 months of the year was right about 1 MCF, 900 cubic feet to 1,100 cubic feet, and that was from across the summer months and into the early fall.
Most years, people go to the grocery store and inflation's 2%, they don't even notice. Nobody screams about it. Their pay is going up similarly. But when we raise somebody's rates 20%, 22%, 27%, that really hurts, And we gotta find a way, it seems like, to track our bills with the inflation rate so that we're not looking at this many, many years after the last rate increase and raising people's rates with 2 months' notice by 20-some%. So going forward, is there a way to do that? Is there a way we can look at this annually or at least maybe every 3 years and adjust?
We do an annual compilation report, but for the gas, we like to wait till the May cutoff, because that's when the cash flow catches up. It's always, cash is always low in December 31st, just by the nature of the seasonal usage of gas. Yeah, maybe over time do a gradual shift on the base charge, because that will, you know, to do that all at once right now would have potentially doubled the rate in the summer months, which, and it made those percentages by user class way out of whack, you know, in terms of how we're allocating the additional revenues to the different customer classes.
I think what he's saying though is that, is just that every year we increase it by 3% or whatever the rate of inflation was, because if we had done 3% over the past 10 years, it would have been gradual. I think one benefit is if we would start this in April, they would have the entire summer months.
It's gonna
But we
be
could kind of help people prepare for that, but
That's a good point too.
It's not gonna be a peak month when this gets implemented.
Right.
So-
This time.
maybe there's some.
I expect our cash flow deficit to be still pretty significant when we come to May 25 cutoff. But I think
Do we have a limit? Is there a reason why we're not doing like is it just a pain to do it? Because it seems like the same with like the wastewater, the different
Yeah,
utilities, that if we
would-
just did gradual.
It's possible to put all of our utilities on a rotating 3-year evaluation and have our rate accountant look at every 3 years and maybe stagger the utilities. So it's not all 3 utilities are getting an increase in the same year.
Sure seems
But each rate increase does require the evaluation of a rate accountant. And we can't just pull a number out of the air and stick it in there and say that's what we want.
What is the cost?
The rates have to be adjusted for fixed and measurable differences or increases in operating costs. And that's what Mr. Crone does.
What is IREC or whatever, what kind of a period do they like to look at? Is it 5 years, 3 years, 15 years? I mean, we're looking at stuff that's '08, that's 15 years ago.
yeah, well, they won't look back that far. You
Like-
know.
That's what I'm driving at. I think that world's gone.
They, usually you'd have a couple calendar years and a test year in a IURC filing. There aren't too many municipal utilities left under the IURC. There's a few, I've got a list somewhere, but, you know, when Dale Helmrich took that action back in, was that 82, 84? And it had to do with those curtailment charges.
Wow.
And then there was a landslide after that where, because for 40 years, this town of Bremen, Indiana was the only one that really opted out of the commission years and years ago. And then when they gave Huntingburg a hard time, you can't control the weather. You know, you try to do your best, but if you have a severe winter, you're gonna, you know, need more gas than what you nominated for. And they put all these curtailment penalties on. And after banging his head against the wall at the commission, Huntingburg started a landslide of municipalities that opted out. You know, there's only 4 or 5 electric utility, municipal electrics that are still in, like.
I get it. But the point Jeff, I think, I'm speaking for Jeff, but the same point I think everybody at the table is we hate seeing huge increases come up like this. We've just been through this with the sewer, we've been through this with the water, and it's not your fault. But we have to go out and sell it
I think
from when we
You
leave
know,
this
with each
place
of
and
those-
hear about it.
each of those big projects were major changes in revenue requirements and, you know, the gas still had cash in the bank and I think it wasn't as critical until now, you know. But I hear you, and I think we can do a better job of communicating in between these.
Personal opinion, I don't think we need to go more than 3 years without considering something with every utility.
I
Well,
agree.
no, I wouldn't
Oh,
think,
yeah.
I would think that would be the minimum,
Yeah,
you know, because there's a lot of changes in 2 to 3 years.
Yes.
Water would be next in line, so, you know, you,
COVID really accelerated everything.
Yeah, and they dumped all that money into the system that
yeah.
messed up everything, I think.
So
We're still recovering from that.
is it even legal, or allowable to schedule future increases? Like, can we pass something now that included a $1 next year, $1 the next year, $1 the next year in that base rate? That it would just be automatic for 3 years or 5 years?
Yeah, you have to have the rate in the ordinance, I think, to do that. You can't just say, well, we're gonna do a 3% inflation kicker every year. I think, you know, I've seen places that have done that, you know, I think the city of Indianapolis used to do that. They get away with a lot of stuff that nobody else does. Of course, they ended up selling out to Citizens Gas or Citizens Energy. But if that's something you want to consider, you know, we could add, you know, a change to the base rate for the next 2 or 3 years, or, I don't,
What is the average cost of one of these studies?
What was it? What was your
Well,
The
question?
average cost of like this study? If we would do it every 3 years, if it's a significant amount of money, that might not make sense either.
That's not money.
you know, it's not near as much as it would be if you were in IURC, I can tell you that. The time spent, you know, in meetings and, you know, that's where we sink most of our time, actually doing the reports, you know, it's probably maybe $4,000 or $5,000, something like that.
Okay.
Then when you're ready to take action, we've got to, you know, Phil spends time on preparing ordinances, we spend time with meetings with the key staff people and the city officials, and then the public meetings are a big part of that too, but I don't think, you know, it would be too much more than what we do. We do an annual report, compilation, some of the banks that we had loans with wanted to see a, you know, independent compilation report prepared, which we've been doing those every year for, but then with the gas utility, we like to do the May cutoff. But we don't go into the depth that we do on a major rate study, but it can still give us an indicator if we're going up or down. And I think we can communicate that better than maybe what we have in the past with you all. I'd be
Well, I
glad.
think at least it would allow us a baseline to see the trends of what's happening, that we could see this ahead of time without having to do, and then maybe if we see where we're getting too far into it, because
I mean, wouldn't answer it with the cash on hand, and is that your?
That's a big one.
That's your,
Looking at cash is king, you know, that's certainly
that's your
one
answer, I
of the
think.
dynamic indicators. But, you know, putting, you know, converting that to, you know, revenue requirements and how much interest income we're able to earn with our cash reserves. That's of course, until a couple of years ago, we weren't earning anything anyway, you know. It's really just been the last couple of years that interest rates, you know, really made or could have made a significant impact. But I think we could
I'd say you're way.
do a better job of communicating that with the council
Than your customers do.
going forward.
thank you.
Again, tonight's not a decision-making meeting, but it is a introduction. We want to get the introduction of the ordinance on the record.
The Utility Rate Advisory Board met with Mr. Crone prior to your meeting tonight and reviewed his study with him, and Buzz made his presentation, and they, by unanimous vote of the three that were present, voted to recommend the proposed increases to the council. So the next step, if you choose to proceed, would be to introduce the ordinance that provides for the proposed rates that Mr. Crone has presented to you, and then to set that for a public hearing. We need at least a 10-day advanced published notice. So it'd be a little bit close to try to do it the first meeting in February. I'd recommend, if you want to have a hearing, do it the second meeting in February, which is the 25th, I think. So the first action you would take by motion is to introduce and number the ordinance, which is the ordinance proposing a natural gas rate increase.
2025-04. So we have a motion to present.
If we did decide that we wanted to have something added to it that would index it or make gradual increases going forward, and maybe some type of requirement that in 3 years we look at it again, to make sure we're not charging too much or that we're not charging too little. Is that something that can still be added to this
Well,
ordinance?
you can add it to this ordinance.
You can introduce different numbers.
Once this ordinance is introduced, you can, after the public hearing, you can amend the ordinance to reduce the rates that are published in this ordinance, but you can't increase the rates that are published by this introduced ordinance.
It would require a totally new
Yeah,
ordinance.
new ordinance, a new public hearing, and all that.
I'm not at all disagreeing that we've got to fix it. So this ordinance will fix that. But I think as a council, I'd like for us to come back and entertain this idea of stepping these more gradually over the years instead of all at one time 15 years later. So personally, I think, at least the way I'm thinking now, is we introduce this ordinance as it is, pass it when the time comes, but we need to continue the conversation on how we can keep this from happening to a future council down the road.
To just do better going
Yeah.
forward.
And I don't mean to the council, I mean to the people of Huntingburg that are gonna absorb this increase. I think it'd be a lot easier on people to do it a little at a time than all at once. So, and not just the people, the industry and the commercial properties are gonna feel it from a dollar perspective more than the average residential user is going to. Maybe not a percentage difference, but dollar difference. There's some pretty big users that are gonna feel that. So I think we need to be mindful of that going forward. So,
Although I can't vote on it, I would vote for that.
yeah. Oh, I agree. Yeah, great idea.
So
All
I
right.
think there's a strong consensus for that.
Yeah, okay.
Were you trying to ask if we could put that into the ordinance also?
Yes, he was trying, but you can't.
Yeah, I wanted to know what the possibilities were. Do we include it in this ordinance, or can we come back later and
Make a
do
separate
it,
one?
do it separately? As long as we can do it separately, again,
You have to table the ordinance tonight, have it later on.
right, we have to table it.
You could actually do an ordinance every year.
So I was gonna say, because you have 4 utilities, you gotta look at it all the time.
I would say, I think that we need to revisit it each time, and if he is saying that there's a compilation study or where they're doing these costs, I think that I wouldn't want to say, okay, we're gonna increase the base rate $1 every year without knowing for sure where we stand in that amount of time. And if we're already paying for something that will maybe help us to get a better picture of that we're not recreating the wheel, that we can kind of be mindful to just look at those and make those changes.
Where do those reports go? When you create that report for the bank, who gets copies?
Well, I send them through Tom, and then he deals
I send them to the bank.
with the bank.
Yeah.
But,
Are they similar to what we're looking at here?
yeah, they probably doesn't have all the projections in it, it's just,
There's 3 sections
Just where
in
we
that
stand.
report, and the first one's a historical financial, and then the second section is this supplemental information. That's gonna be what's in the annual report. Anything beyond that, the pro forma, that's all the projections related to the rate study. But the annual report we can look at that annual report and tell you whether you get a rate increase. It's not gonna have.
It's just a presentation for a nice
It's
meeting.
required to
It's
figure
just a
what that
summary.
rate increase is, but it can at least answer that question.
It was easy.
I think it might be good, when we get the May cutoff this
She said
year,
it's Rob, so
we'll circulate
we can.
our report through Tom to all of you. And then we'll be able to make some adjustments to reflect the rates that were adopted. And,
And
you know,
just this, just for general knowledge, it would just seem pertinent for anytime that we're doing a report to satisfy just to show the health of a utility, for lack of a better word. And you're sending that to Tom and the banks, it seems like the utility board would be able to be copied on that. And if we had questions, we could,
Well, let me interject a little bit.
yeah.
Your compilation report is basically our financial statements. So you are getting
They are getting that.
he adds a few things to it, but what I send to the bank, and it's on a yearly basis, not on a May to June.
so we do a year-end comp report, but then on the gas utility, we like to update that and look at the May cutoff to, because that's when the receivables catch up with the payables. And, you know, maybe we need to be looking at the worst
Pay my bill.
case scenario, which is at year end probably. But, you know, I think the May cutoff is, you know, a better time where it takes the weather, you know, the seasonal usage out of the.
It's a more balanced outlook of what's actually over a period of time. You're gonna have spikes and dips, I get that, but, yeah, okay.
So I need to make a motion to introduce.
If you want to.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have first, next, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. and,
Need to set a
need-
public hearing.
That meeting you mentioned, February would probably be the best date.
25th.
25th.
Make a motion to have the public hearing on the meeting on February 25th, 2025.
I'll second it.
Got the first and second, all those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? I'm sorry. All right, thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you letting us
Brandon
go on
Buzz.
first.
I know you got a little traveling to do. They don't.
It probably would have been shorter had you been last.
Next time we're gonna put him on, yeah, he'll talk less than.
Yeah.
I should have called you and told you he was gonna be here.
Next up, we'll go back to,
Guys.
Better chairs.
we have a couple presentations here.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
Brandon. Thanks, Brandon. We have resolutions here. I don't know who's speaking, but Ruger Kirstein's.
Well, I might just point, this is the time and date that's advertised for a public hearing on the declaration of Poplar Ridge as a economic, economic revitalization area, yes. And the public was notified of this hearing. And it gives the developer an opportunity again to explain the project and explain the fact that they're requesting tax abatement, 100% tax abatement for 5 years for this project. The project, as Mr. Ruger, Mr. Kirsten was explaining, is in 3 phases. So this is the public's opportunity to hear
Yeah, we
and
do.
ask questions.
Thank you.
Ruger Kirstein's here on behalf of Poplar Ridge. It's the legal entity, Poplar Ridge Apartments. Myself here and Scott Steinkamp, the project that we're proposing, that we were here in front of you the other month regarding the tax abatement. So through conversations, I won't go back through the project. I did bring the same presentation boards here, just in case anybody had questions on the project. And then through conversations leading up to this meeting, put together just a very simple sheet showing the land-based tax revenues that will remain intact throughout the project because the land.
You should all have copies of those. He sent those earlier today, and we didn't get those in board pack, but you look, next to the last column is what he's referring to.
I've got some extra copies too, in case anybody doesn't have one. But it's just a general, again, simple chart showing the current tax base that's being paid by the vacant land is not getting abated. So that will show in the far left column to where the revenues are still, that are being collected today will still continue to be collected. But then what it's going to show as you go from left to right on phase one, after the abatement falls off, what will start being paid in property taxes starting on year 2033. And then for phase two, will start being paid in 2034. And then after phase three rolls off, what will be paid in 2035. And then as all of those escalate down, then by year 2048, just to shoot it out several years into the future, you'll see that the total tax base is going to show at right around $4 million collected by the city of Huntingburg through this investment. And that's also making the assumption that there's no increase in assessments on the real property through the next 24 years, which would be great. It's going to.
Good for you.
I can't project or predict what the assessors are going to do, so this is
Still at-
absolute minimum exact,
Still at today's dollars, though.
Yeah.
So that dollar figure actually is going to be much, much larger. If you can all remember what you were paying 24 years ago in property taxes, and take that times that $4 million, and it's going to be a pretty large number. So the point of this chart was to show and reiterate that this project is not negatively impacting the current tax base. That existing tax base is staying intact. This is just showing what you're gaining through the delayed gratification by granting the tax abatement, allowing this project to go through, and what you're going to receive into the future. So that was the point of that model. Nothing more, but again, I just wanted to keep it very simple and easy to read and follow so that everybody can see, what this investment is doing for the city of Huntingburg.
So it's 100% for the first 5 years?
Correct.
Yes.
And then as each phase comes online, 5 years from then, basically is when we start receiving the.
So these are, the way it was presented is 3 different SB1s, because we're planning on bringing this on in phases, because a community the size of Huntingburg, I think we talked about this on the last meeting, so
I'm following you.
Yeah.
100%.
So we're just delivering in phases, and to get the abatements to line up to where essentially the abatement isn't diminished by putting it all in phase one. By the time we finish phase 3, then there wouldn't be a lot of time left, and then the underwriting on the project and the feasibility goes down. So that's why it's staggered out through the phases.
Okay.
So is it fair to say if the demand is there, that you could step up the phases?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
I believe that there's a lot of demand,
Yeah.
especially in the price points that we plan to deliver. So hopefully it will go quicker than what we're thinking, but we try to do everything conservatively.
Right,
So I don't want to say we'll get it done in 2 years and then take 5 years and everybody's upset about it.
right, I understand.
So that's true.
So we need I guess the public
Well,
meeting was
yeah, it was-
open, right?
Open for public comments. Public questions.
Come on, public.
Can we see the pictures?
It's right in front of you.
Come on. Yeah, see, I know, you guys know, because they put them up here, so we can actually see. You guys get to look at them all the time. We do.
Quarantine.
I was going to have them come up.
And basically, if I remember right, if you could, somebody wants to drive to Washington, they could see this project.
Yeah, we delivered, we delivered this product here up in Washington, Indiana. It's a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartment units. There's 12 2-bedrooms, 6 1s, and 6 3s per building. The square footage on these is larger than a typical unit that we deliver, and the residents of Washington absolutely love the layout. it was fantastic. So we thought, let's replicate this again in Huntingburg, based on the feedback that we got in that community. So,
Where is this in Washington?
so I get them mixed up all the time. It's either True Scripts or True RX over by the interchange 69 and is it RX? It's right across the street.
Near Hooks, kind of.
Yeah, if you're at the Hooks, and you go through that roundabout, and you're taking East National Highway 50 into, it's right there, you can't miss it, on the right.
I know where you're at.
There's some,
Side of town.
there's some houses in the front, and then the apartments are all the way in the back of that development, so.
Yeah, it's very much east.
Yeah,
East side of
it's
town.
as far east,
As you can
except for
get.
the industrial partners on the
Gotcha.
far side. So I had a couple more points. I won't bog it down too long, but, granted that everything goes well, we do wish to start in March. So that's great that it's right around the corner if we get all the approvals and things that we need in the meantime. And then I mentioned that there was a ready grant at hand, at which this is also serving as the public match to be able to receive that grant, which is an integral part of making sure that this project was successful. And I did receive news that we did make it past the regional level to where now it's being reviewed by IEDC, which is excellent news because that, I would say, gives us a very good chance of receiving those funds so that this tax abatement, if granted, would then serve as the local match and allow us to receive that grant, which altogether is how this project works. So I just wanted to share the good news that while I can't confirm, it is seemingly positive that that's going to be a possibility for this project. So.
I'd like to add one more thing, that it's not included in this project, but it's planned, it's a different project we'll start working on when we're halfway through this. It's the hospital surrounding property we own. So we'll be looking to do another class of property out there, probably 2030. So looking at that next step. So we really want to try to take that northern part of town that kind of struggled for as long as I can remember. And try to turn that around and make it an addition, a very good addition to the town.
So you talk about the property behind the hospital.
Along the hospital, I forget the name.
Medical
Bed cards and.
Yeah, the whole outside of the property, yeah.
So would that be more rental properties or would they be properties people could purchase?
We can't, you can't tell the market. I can't tell you what's going to be in 5 years.
Okay.
We looked at Chestnut Gardens too, because that's been very successful. We looked at some more over 55. We looked at garden homes. There's all, I can't tell you the trend by then, but it won't be exactly like this. It'll be different, serve a different market.
Good news is that it's more housing in Huntingburg
Yeah.
in some
Sure,
capacity.
sure.
Because I really think the housing, the United States has averaged 67% ownership of homes in the last 40 years. Normally Europeans, 45 to 48%. If trends continue, we'll trend more towards that lower number. Because the younger people are not wanting to buy homes, they're wanting to rent because they want to be more mobile. They don't want to fix stuff. So we're in a major trend change of housing right now, the beginning of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, how fast the trend moves, we can't tell.
Well, I was asked that a while back, like, why don't we, city of Huntingburg have condominiums where they could purchase or something? I said, well, here's an opportunity.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Because there's some interest in that too.
Yeah, and then that would be off there at some point, because that would be a good, at this point, the way the hospital's been cleaned up by the purchaser, that would probably be a good location. So I was kind of wanting to see what all happened, because I bought the property on a whim, hoping someone would take over the hospital eventually, and that could be developed.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
Very good. Understand
it's
that.
hard to predict all that at one time, too.
yeah.
So we need to close the public meeting? Make a motion to close the public meeting and introduce this for,
One at a time, I think.
okay. Make a motion to close the public meeting.
I'll second the motion to close it.
All right, well, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
So you have before you confirmatory resolution to designate an economic revitalization area and an economic development target area. Since this is, this request is for residential tax abatement, the area has to be not only determined to be an economic revitalization area, but also an economic development target area. Fortunately, the test for both of them are the same. It has to be property that you believe has become undesirable for or impossible of normal development and occupancy because of lack of development, cessation of growth, deterioration of improvements, or character or occupancy, or age or obsolescence, or substandard buildings, or other factors which have impaired values or prevent a normal development of the property or the property's use without some incentive. The Economic Development Commission of the City of Huntingburg has had their meeting and review of the plan and the project and has made that determination that they believe it meets those tests. And they're recommending that it, to the council, that you approve this as an economic revitalization area and as an economic development target area. One of the tests for being an economic development target area is that there have to be at least 20% of the units available for use by low and moderate income individuals. And based upon Huntingburg staff, planning staff review of the project, the proposed rents for single and two-bedroom apartments would be within the low and moderate income standards, and so it would meet that test. This resolution would confirm the declaratory resolution that you adopted 2 meetings ago, determining this preliminarily to be an economic revitalization area, and it would grant these designations for 5 years and would grant 5-year 100% tax abatement for 5 years for each of those 3 phases. The 5-year designation just means that they have to begin the project within the 5 years, but then the abatement begins after the project is, each phase is completed for a period of 5 years beyond that. So the abatement will go beyond the 5-year designation of the property. It will go for the full 5 years after the phase is completed.
Yes.
So the process would be to approve this resolution by vote.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2024-25 Poplar Ridge revitalization.
Dash 20-05.
05.
I'll second.
2025-5, right?
Dash
2025-05 resolution.
Mr. Kistling has a first, we have a second by Mr. Ware.
Okay, I'm,
What? Sorry, maybe not.
I
Okay.
approve second.
Second, all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you all.
Thank you.
The next order of business with regard to Poplar Ridge is the final adoption of ordinance number 2024-26. You introduced that at your previous meeting on December 17. And that's an ordinance that declares this property to be an economic development target area. The economic development target area has to be established by ordinance. And so it makes the same findings. It authorizes the same abatement, and it makes a finding that this property qualifies as an economic development target area. And you've already introduced it, so it just requires a vote for adoption.
Motion to adopt.
I'll second it.
We have first and second. All those in favor of adoption?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Kissling.
Aye.
Bounds.
Aye.
Farren.
Aye.
Bolte.
Aye.
Ware.
Aye.
5 ayes, no nays.
And then the final action is, I think you all received the statement of benefits for real estate improvements. There's 3 of them because there's 3 phases to this project. And so the first phase indicates that there's going to be an investment of $6,072,381 in creating 48 units. The second phase has the same dollar amount for 48 units. And I believe those properties are on the northernmost part of the development area. And then the third phase is for $3,795,238 of improvements. and establishing, I think it's 30 units, I believe, is that right?
Yes.
30, I think, townhouse units.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can approve the statement of benefits by, just by a motion, and essentially you're saying that the benefits justify the tax abatement, and the motion would authorize the mayor to sign these forms approving the statement of benefits. Just a motion approving the statement of benefits and authorizing the mayor to sign them.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have first and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah, that's it.
You're done.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What did you say the time frame will be once you start breaking ground? You take to do that, a year?
Well, hopefully we can depends how dry spring is.
I don't think it's
Like
like
to fire up the dozers in
Less than a year?
a month and a half. Oh, start going vertical with them
Yeah.
this summer.
I hope by like fall would be good. Go again. What do you say?
Yeah, ideally, I'd say we want to have them framed up and enclosed by the time the months start to turn through the winter.
Yeah.
Just curious.
So, yeah,
Good, very well.
thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for investing. Last meeting, if you remember, we had Rosina Sandoval from Alaska here talking about the benefits that they provided our community through the Alaska Resource Center across the street. We had previously agreed the city had to pay that rent at $550 per month. We do have it in the budget for the following year. However, that contract expired in December. So I asked Phil to put together a new agreement for 2025, and you have that in here. So what I need is approval from the city to sign and engage in that contract to continue paying that $550 a month rent through this year. There was no increase in rent, so
This agreement expired.
yeah, it expired December 31st.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. You want to go through the gas rate again? No.
Sure.
We had John Rudipola first. Right now, there'll be a bid opening scheduled for the next week or the week after for the truck. We need to select the bid opening committee for that, the truck that was already, you authorized him to send out for bid.
Specs were sent out.
18th, I'm sorry.
Open bid the 18th at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. Need to appoint a committee.
Do you typically do the superintendent, the mayor, and the clerk treasurer?
That's typically what we've done. I'd make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Carrie. It's the 18th. I better get that on my calendar. Huh? Okay. Okay. Next, approval of the license agreement paying the live fee to Norfolk Southern Railroad.
Can I give a little
Yeah.
background on this? Back in, when was the overpass built? 2016? 2016, when the overpass was built, it necessitated rerouting some distribution lines that were serving the area on the other side of where the overpass was going to be. And at the same time, the overpass was built about the same time. We extended our distribution lines over the railroad to the west of the overpass.
In industrial park.
Yeah. And the train master at Norfolk Southern Train Depot in Huntingburg was aware of it, and they were on site, and they made sure track traffic was controlled, and construction was done appropriately, and everybody went on. In connection with that project, we paid Norfolk Southern, I think, $185,000 as a license fee to construct the overpass over the railroad.
Wow.
But that agreement for the overpass did not specifically include crossing over the tracks with the distribution system, distribution lines. So in October, I think it was October, we got a letter from a company that manages Norfolk Southern's crossing encroachments. They're called Rail Pros, with a demand to pay $45,000 as a license fee for that encroachment. Notwithstanding the fact that it was 8 years ago that it was constructed and nobody said anything, John and I continued since October negotiating with Rail Pros as well as Norfolk Southern, and were able to reduce the permit fee down to $10,000. Now, I have checked with an attorney that does a great deal of this for private clients, and he said, yes, this is a valid thing. You're not going to get out of it. The only exception to paying a license fee for encroaching or crossing railroad right-of-way is if that railroad right-of-way crosses over a public right-of-way, and the public right-of-way was there, that is, the street was there before the railroad. In that case, you can use the public right-of-way, and you don't have to pay for a license fee over the railroad. But we're not over railroad. We're not over a public way crossing. We're not over a street crossing. We are between streets, and we truly are encroaching over their right-of-way. And but I believe, based upon what I've been able to learn from the other attorney that does this work, that $10,000 is a pretty reasonable fee for this.
Seems like it.
So if you're in agreement, the agreement was posted on board pack. It's kind of a longer agreement, but I have reviewed it. It's a typical Norfolk Southern agreement with all the protections and whereases and wherefores in it. But I would certainly recommend approving it and authorizing the payment.
They have no choice, that's what we're gonna remove them.
That's right.
It's one and done.
Unfortunately, we can't charge it.
Well, it's actually a 20-year license. So they don't give you a license into perpetuities. It's 20 years. But we'll see whether they remember it in 20 years or not. They didn't even discover for 8 years.
Well, I make a motion to go ahead and approve the payment.
I'll second.
Okay, first and a second, all those in approval of the payment of $10,000 to Norfolk Southern, actually.
Yay,
All those in favor, aye, I'm sorry. Any opposed? And actually, to be clear, that is going to Rail Pros, not Norfolk Southern, so.
Yeah, the Rail Pros, we pay Rail Pros, but they get a commission.
They forward to Norfolk Southern.
But they get a commission.
So they'll send something on to them, minus the commission.
Are we allowed to ask how you got the price from 40 to 10?
Well, a lot of it was John's input. John's indicated that for the last 30 years or so, at least as long as he's been around, we have provided maintenance service to Norfolk Southern's private electric system. When they have a tree that comes down over their distribution system, they'll call us, and John and crew will go down and remove the tree and splice the line and do it. It may only happen 2 or 3 times a year, but there's never been a charge. Primarily, the city doesn't charge because you won't get paid anyway. The bill just gets sent from one office to the next office to the next office. Nobody
If
acknowledges.
we don't, our crossings won't work,
Yeah,
and
so it's
it
more of a
becomes a
safety
danger to those in the community.
Did get
that
paid by the
cross.
last one, Phil. I
Did
did
you?
check on that.
It's true.
It took a while.
bureaucracy, it's fun.
Yeah, the railroad. The bill next time needs to be at least $10,000.
Yes.
And I think we do have to supply them a certificate of insurance.
Yes.
I see this stuff at work too.
And we have that, that's already.
Wait for trains all day long.
Okay.
Don't even get me started.
You gotta put them down.
Moving the lines would be more than $10,000.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's just go with that.
We had to bore into the overpass.
Right. And we just did that.
That's probably pretty deep footers.
Yeah, we just did that up there for the
Yeah.
Main Street
Yeah.
relocation there. That was quite substantial.
Okay.
That being said,
The hits keep coming.
Thank you, John.
yeah,
Anything else?
main topic being gas, I'll start with the gas department. We did install 2 new services this month, called the Jago. We've got 4 applications on file. I think we got like 5 more services to hook up in Jago, and that subdivision will be done. Did replace 13 gas meters with the new census gas meters. This type of weather, we're only changing them out when people are home, so that's why the number has dropped. But they are trying to catch people. Then the crew chief and another gas employer are taking their online testing, which is a really good time of the year to do it. We got like 85 online tests. You gotta take the test and pass. So it usually takes a couple of weeks to get that done. You know, January being pretty cold most of the month, the crews have been checking the gas pressures at all the gas regulator stations to make sure we're keeping up with the pressures. We did a couple tie-ins this summer that seemed to really help. The pressures held better than they did last year. You just don't want to get too low or everybody starts losing their pilot lights in their furnaces and so on. So they've been checking that several times a day. We've got 24 regulator stations. So everything's looking good. Any questions on the gas? The electric, got 2 new services this month, both at Hunter's Crossing again. The crews did work all day Monday the 6th with the snow and ice we got on that Sunday. I know the mayor called snow emergency. Only essential people come in, but our SCADA system sent out an alarm to all the electric employees and myself at 6 o'clock that morning. We lost the circuit to southeast. Big tree branch come down and broke the wires. It was out for an hour and a half. It's the second time that same area has knocked out the circuit. So we're coming up with a plan to redo that little section to prevent that. There's about 20, 30 trees you'd have to cut down. So we're gonna bore underground that little section. I was with Rich today. We looked this area over, trying to get a game plan on how we're gonna do it. So I think we come up with a pretty good plan to do it. We're gonna do it this summer. So next time a big tree branch breaks in the same area, it's not gonna affect the electric service.
I just want to commend with all the power outages that occurred in the county and our surrounding areas, that was the only one we experienced. And a lot of that has to do with the tree maintenance that they do in the fall and the spring, the electric department, and being proactive on getting those trees trimmed. The street department hit the alleys in the fall too, so we could get down alleys and not cover down. But a lot of tree cutting was being done last fall, and I just have to commend you for that.
I'll second that. Really great job.
I'm just happy it was down an hour and a half. I mean, there's people have been out for days in other areas, not here, but you know, an hour and a half is not bad.
We fix this one little section, that's gonna hopefully prevent a lot of future circuits going down.
Is that part of the outage for St. Henry?
What's that?
Was this part of the outage? For
Yeah,
St.
it's a circuit feeds St. Henry and the airport.
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. I woke up to that and they were like, what are we gonna do? I go, nothing. I said, if I know John's team, they'll have it fixed before I get to work.
Yeah. Hour and a half. SCADA system, like I say, the SCADA system sounded an alarm to everybody, so everybody's already headed in. By the time we started getting the calls, they knew we had a big problem, so they all automatically come in. So that SCADA system really worked good.
Mhm.
Then they've been doing a lot of maintenance on the equipment, big and small, changing hydraulic fluids, oils, changes. Just basically looking over all the equipment real good, checking it out. But really, weather hasn't been good for much doing outside work out. Then the other 2 items we covered already.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions on the electric? No? Concludes my report.
Thank you again, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Good job.
All right, Water Superintendent Jerry Austin.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Gary.
It's getting dark now.
I'll get through my 2-hour presentation as quickly as possible.
Can't wait.
We'll jump into distribution. With the weather being as cold as it is, we try to focus on a lot of the indoor work. I do have some stuff with us not being here last meeting from last month, some things on here that we had done the previous month in November and December. So we did work on our annual inventory that we do every year on our material for the clerk treasurer's office to be able to get those reports done. We did also, talking about tree removal, anytime we have a rotted tree that's close to power lines or structure or anything like that, John's guys are great to work with. We usually go out, they help us get them on the ground, and then we take care of them from that point. We had one at the west water tower that was close to some electric lines in the fence they helped us with. We did have a service line that was found during Doug Mailing's excavation for the wastewater system there on First Street that was, the copper became porous, kind of like some of the pieces I brought into you guys that we found that are multicolored and have holes in them. It was leaching water. That's the only one that we found in that area so far. We did replace that whole service from the main to the homeowner's water meter there. And then we also got notified about a potential leak at 12th and Jackson Street. We have a water main there, wastewater has a force main there. So we kind of joined forces there. We did using our listening device that we purchased a few years back that we use all the time. And working with them, we did find that it was a force main sewer leak. They had a 360 crack on it. We were able to help them pinpoint it, and they were able to take care of that repair. With this extremely cold winter that we've had here the last few weeks, our equipment, our backhoe and our mini excavator, they are under roof. We kind of took over the First Street Limb Lot lean-to, but they, being out there in the elements still, we did end up having to install block heaters on both of those pieces of equipment. They wasn't spec'd out with that when they were purchased. Whenever we went to try to start them, we had a tough time starting them. So kind of worked on that to help us out in that aspect, have that equipment ready for emergencies. We had 2 services on West 12th Street with some of that work with OFS, with expanding their warehouse out there, removing a couple buildings. There was a couple services that they no longer need. So anytime we have those, we try to get them out of the ground so they're not forgotten and a contractor catch them down the road. We also had, with the wastewater project, they found a fire hydrant lead at First and Argem. There was a joint, it was actually a lead joint that fell right in the middle of their trench. During work, that lead joint started to drip water. So we had to go out there and cut that section of pipe out and sleeve in a new section of pipe to repair that issue. And then also kind of working there with the wastewater project. They did a water main relocate. They have some large concrete underground holding tanks that they are putting in there, and the current placement of that water main is right where they're installing those. So we did kind of work with them. Their contractors did all the work. We just kind of correlated with them a couple water main shutdowns, and then we had to relocate a water tap for the Third Street lot that the city owns due to that section of water main being decommissioned. Down here, we also aided the street department with our hydro excavator to install some posts in the alley behind Mama T's for safety for the cars and the people in the alleyways. We did have 3 new water meter service installs, 2 of them in the Jago subdivision. And as John says, I think we have 2 more water services to install there, and that'll be complete for us as well. We're just waiting on tap permits to come in from the developer. And then we had one on the north side of town. We also, this time of year, I don't remember whether it was last year or the year before, but I came to you guys to get permission to test and certify all the city's backflow preventers within our community, within the city offices. So we've been doing that. We did find one at wastewater while we were doing that it did fail. We were able to get parts that day and we were able to repair that. So everything's put back together there and the town is protected. Then we did jump over and help the street department with a pretty large concrete pour. I don't know whether that was considered for the North Side Park or for their parking area there. It kind of all coincides
I think
together.
it's a 70-30.
Yeah. And then we've really been hitting hard on trying to clean up and reorganize our water plant and our distribution shop to assist with mainly efficiency overall, but I mean, we're all aware that we've got stuff stored everywhere. We're kind of out of room. So really to help with that too. Other than that, jump into the filter plant there. Every year we have to update our water supply emergency response plan and submit that to IDEM. So that has been complete and submitted. We did install a flash mixer whenever the water plant was upgraded. Right or wrong, the flash mixer that was there was left in place. There wasn't nothing wrong with it. What nobody really thought of is it is built for a certain gallon per minute. When we doubled our water plant, we increased our gallon per minute by 2. So we were having some issues with some mixing on some of our chemicals. It was taking longer times for that to happen. So whenever we realized that's what the problem was, we ordered a new flash mixer and got that installed. It's mainly just a PVC tube with multiple chambers in it that helps the contact time and the mix of the chemical. We did service our high service pumps. They have gear drives on them that we have to change the oils in, as well as grease the shafts and replace packing and the mechanical seals on the shafts for those. And during that time, annually, we have a CL17 machine, and it analyzes our chlorine input into our water. That is the last point that our water sets before it is pumped into our distribution system. We have to analyze that constantly. Those records are submitted to IDEM monthly, and that lets them know that we are within our legal dosage limits. We did have a window AC unit in that building prior to the upgrade. It became to where that window AC unit was not sufficient anymore due to all of our VFDs being located into that building. So that window AC unit was running around the clock. It eventually gave out on us. So we had a local company come in and install a mini split system with our help to aid in keeping that building cool. We've probably got close to $1 million worth of motors, pumps, and VFDs down there. So very, very crucial to our operation. Other than that, our metering system, we do have been getting those large diameter meters in. Unfortunately, it's below 32 degrees, and it's not the ideal time to be shutting water off and working on water. So it's starting to get warm here again, so we will jump back into that. Other than that, for my normal reporting, there's a few things that I just wanted to put out there to make sure you guys are aware of. Me and Tom spoke about it and thought it would be best for you guys to be aware of it too, in case any questions arose. We had, whenever we did our water plant upgrade, Midwestern Engineering was the engineering firm that did all the engineering on that project, and there was a bill that was missed for that work. That was back in July of 2021, and they did bring that bill to our attention. We never received invoice for that bill. Working with them, we did get the sum of that bill, I hate to say what the number was because I don't remember. Tom, do you remember what it started out?
Just below 15,000.
Below 15,000. I know Neil took part in those conversations, and Tom as well. We did settle on a sum of $5,000. So we did take ownership of $5,000 of that work that was missed for billing on the project. There,
$9,500 reduction, I believe, in the original bill.
right, yeah.
How did they not see that for 3 years?
I don't know.
They had
They had an
cleaning out the
employee.
files of an employee who had just left. It was there and it was their job to bill for his time. He didn't bill for his own time. He'd gone to another engineering firm.
And then also with
He
that,
verified it too, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do you verify to make sure?
yeah, he did verify that it was billed hours. Yeah. Unfortunate, very unfortunate, about like the railroad.
Yeah.
Just not as long.
Oh, okay.
So with that, it kind of ties into that project and those FRS funds that we had. We have kept that loan open due to the fact that they allowed us to add our new service truck that we purchased in 2022, that we received in 2023, and our meters. With those large diameter meters still coming in, there is still roughly, I want to say it's roughly a little over $40,000 there with that loan that we can turn our large diameter meters into. That was all approved by the council roughly 2 years ago, to be honest. So with leaving that loan open, it did accrue some interest. We had to have a company, we worked with a company, Ice Miller. They had to do some, what was that? A rebate report for SRF to appease them, to show that we are not just sitting there making money off their money. So with that, there was a charge from their company of $4,555.99. Tom and I have spoke with SRF, both the $5,000 amount from Midwest Engineering and the $4,555.99 from Ice Miller are able to be turned into that SRF loan due to the fact that that loan is still open, waiting for the last few meters that we have to come in to bill for that and close that loan. We feel that it's best just to go ahead and turn that in on that since it was all part of that project. We have submitted payment for Ice Miller already. We have not submitted for Midwestern just due to wanting to speak with you guys about it first.
And that amount is $5,500
Oh, sorry. Okay.
for Ice Mill.
Okay, I apologize.
Which has
I must have
already been
misread
paid.
Gotcha. So, but other than that, like I said, just more of
No.
information in
It's already
case
paid.
anybody asks or it comes up. We just felt it was best that you guys know that, and know what we're doing with it and what it was about.
No, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jerry.
I don't think the council has a bill for the water department. 5 years old, do we?
Bill first. Right. Stop.
They're like electric department.
Let me get these other 15 pages out here and we'll talk about some more.
We're just lucky that SRF was still open.
Right, yeah. Yep.
It's all good.
That's it.
Status of the water plant for the repair of the leak?
I did just speak with John Wetzel, Commonwealth Engineering. They about have that preliminary report done. And we hopefully, I was hoping that wasn't gonna be a lot going on the second meeting of next month. But that's whenever we'd
Good
like
luck.
to possibly get on the agenda to present. We might, if it looks like the first meeting of the month doesn't look as rough, maybe we'll try to get it on the books for that. Try to get you guys out of here soon.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right?
What we're here for.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you guys.
Work.
Next, anything, City Attorney Phil Schneider?
No, I have nothing.
Clerk Treasurer Tom Tipple does, yes.
Yeah, we got the annual Board of Finance meeting. We have it here because you are the Board of Finance as well as the Common Council. And what we need to do is, I need to present to you a report, but I think first we need to elect officers. Currently, Steve is the president, and Jeff is the secretary.
Been a lot of work. Telling you.
Yeah, I know.
Big responsibility.
It's been okay.
Raise your hand.
It's been okay.
So we need to make a motion to nominate somebody or continue
Yeah,
on with it?
if you want, to elect for the upcoming year, for 25.
If you wanted to, you could elect a slate of a president and a secretary. Nominate a slate. 2 people.
Anybody want to do it?
I didn't have any problem with it.
I'd say just keep it the same if they're okay with it.
Okay,
We're fine with it.
make that motion.
You'll have to, somebody has to make the motion.
I'll make a motion for you to continue on where we're at now.
President and secretary.
President and secretary.
I'll second.
And a first and a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Then you need to consider approval of the minutes from January 23rd of 24.
Those are page 2. Documents.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And we're probably not going to adjourn at 6:08 this time.
What you see here, I believe you, I presented a packet. There's 4 pages of detail, 5 pages, 6 pages of the Trust Indiana is where we put all of our money. If it's not being used for operations, that average yield over the last year was 5.2013.
Pretty good.
We earned $1,284,990.75 with that.
We didn't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, president.
The city did. We didn't.
That's a lucrative job.
Good job on it.
So those are there. I'm presenting those to you for your review.
You don't have to.
There's no approval or anything.
There's no approval, it's just a review.
Very nice.
And then,
It's a nice
There's-
job there.
yeah, that's, our investment policy, it's another item that we review. You have it here, but it's the hierarchy is, first of all, is safety. The second of all is liquidity, and the third is the rate of return. So that's what where this money is very safe. It's liquid. I can get it the next day, and it has higher rate as we can get anywhere.
It's a really good rate of return for something you can get tomorrow.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
pretty good.
Gosh, we have. So we reviewed that. And now we can adjourn this meeting if you want.
I hear a motion to adjourn the finance.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We got first, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, any other council items?
The only thing I'd like to add, back when we were talking about gas rates, we did replace a whole lot of gas meters. It cost a little bit of money. They came out of that reserve funds. That's why a lot of your cash is down. So that will have to be done again, so
Still got some to change out.
they're paid for probably, right?
No, not yet.
Okay. Guess not.
Majority of it is
What percentage are you think you're at that anymore?
750 to purchase yet,
Oh, my goodness.
And how many customers?
3,800.
So we're in good shape. Okay. That's what I thought too. I wanna,
We're about 78%.
I'd like to add that for 2025, the electric rates will decrease 5%.
Oh,
That will be through the tracker.
good deal.
The rates are going down 5%
okay.
on the electric.
Better make up the gap.
This is not.
Yeah, that's make it.
Thank you to the board of HEPA for making that happen.
So that'll
Yeah.
balance out the
Yeah.
other.
As a councilman comment and as a resident comment, I would like to commend, the city, on the snow removal and working in the cold, keeping things going. I would commend the city employees. It's been some rough weather the last couple of weeks, and they've come through in flying colors. Like I said, there's only so much you can do when you get ice and snow like that, and they did as well as they could do.
Well as it could for what they had to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah, that ice is tough. So-
We had over 40 miles of streets, is that correct?
42.
42
Yeah.
miles of streets we had to deal with. You
I
know?
second that. And I think sometimes too, living somewhere else for a little bit, you don't realize how good we have it here. And we were in Indy for 4 days without power, and that was awful. And so, this time, my husband, I said, oh my gosh. And I said, I'm not even worried. I know they'll take care of us, so we don't have to get, the generators out and stuff. So thank you. You guys all did
Absolutely.
such a fantastic job.
Yeah, I did, so.
We're very fortunate.
Just so you know, some of the employees requested a meeting to see how we could do it better, and that was commended to them from the street department and parks department.
Yeah.
And they've done analysis of streets and how many people and trucks it takes and where we're at compared to other communities, and we really have about half the resources that our communities have around us right now. And so we're looking at, we've got a plan, so it'll be better next time.
Well,
I don't know how we're gonna fight it, but thank you, Steve, and how do you fight that ice? We don't know.
you can't.
Our plows just bounced on it.
The ice is, it's totally different. It's just a total, I work there, I know. It's a total new, and it's a citywide investment when we go out and do this snow removal and that. It's not just the street department.
Yeah.
Everybody that's got any piece of equipment is out there helping and pitching in, so
And,
kudos to those guys.
and your salt doesn't work at certain temperatures, and
When it's
that
5 degrees, it really don't do
you
much.
can't do much.
So,
Thank
Well,
you.
well, fortunate that doesn't happen every year.
no,
So,
yeah.
Any other council items?
Motion to adjourn.
And
Hold on.
citizen.
Hold on.
Jeez, she's been here 2 hours.
I'm sorry. Come on.
I had not asked for a motion to adjourn.
I just came to see the pictures.
Okay.
So we have any citizen items?
There you go.
Right now, do we have a
Motion
motion
to adjourn.
I'll second.
We have first, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Go home. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you guys
Thank you
for
all.
everything. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for those that attended, observed.